Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Real United States video blog. And I'm your host, Paul Campbell. We're here in Titusville, Florida, at the Space Museum. As you can see, it's kind of a small building. They haven't really invested a lot in a huge museum. They've invested most in the memorial parks. But there is a small museum here dedicated exclusively to the United States space program, or predominantly the United States space program. So we're going to take you inside for a little walk around. And the museum is back this way. This is a high-speed camera, and you can see what the 1960s or 70s technology was like at the time. This actually shot film, very different from the sort of materials we shoot today that are all digital. So you eat up a lot of film in a very short period of time. 4,000 frames a minute. And a frame, I think this is, it doesn't say if this is 16 or 32 millimeter, but still you'd eat up a lot of film in a very short period of time at 4,000 frames a minute. Scale model of the gantry and the gantry assist and the crawler, which was this device here that would carry, well, back in the day, the Saturn V rockets, and then later the space shuttle out to the launch pad, and the luffing crane or gantry crane that would lift it from the crawler up onto the launch platform. Detailed model. And having been up close to this, I can tell you this is a pretty accurate representation of what the gantries look like. And in the background there's a old photograph. This was would have been made in the early 1980s. This is an artist's conception of the shuttle sitting on the crawler. And I know this is an artist's conception because I actually was part of the design team that worked on the Space Shuttle Enterprise back in 1979. So this is probably a late 70s artist rendition of what it was going to look like. This is a rather nice piece here, if we can get the lighting for it. These are the handprints for Neil A. Armstrong from Apollo 11, the first man to set foot on the moon. And an interesting piece here. This, as you may know, much of the covering of the space shuttle is a special, very, very high purity ceramic. And this is an actual nose cone from a mission called STS-122 that goes directly on the front end of the shuttle. And this is where a lot of the heat from re-entry is absorbed. And you can see how it's scored a little from the intense heat of re-entry. But this is an actual nose cone from an actual mission. So okay, now here is a model of the equipment, the gantry, if you will, the crane used for lifting the space shuttle and attaching it to the back of a Boeing 747. This is used when the shuttle was forced to land at Edwards Air Force Base in California and had to then be brought back across the United States to Florida to be refurbished for its next mission during the shuttle program. This is especially close to my heart, as my involvement in this was there's a connector, not shown on this model, but there's an electrical connector about that big around that connects the belly of the shuttle to the back of the 747, because obviously you need to have an information data exchange between the plane and the shuttle when it's being ferried. And back in 1979, I was part of the design team that worked on that particular large 221 pin electrical connector interface between those two pieces. So that again has a special place in my heart. And of course, I would be horribly remiss if I didn't point out this piece right here, a famous event in Russian and American relations, the docking of an Apollo capsule with a Soyuz module, where Deke Slayton, I believe, was the first American to open the hatch and shake hands with his Russian counterparts in the Soyuz module. Sorry. This is going to be kind of hard to take in, ladies and gentlemen, because it's tight quarters in here. But this is some of the actual equipment that was used at the Kennedy Space Center during the flight operations of the Mercury and the Gemini and the Apollo programs. This is all circa 1960s and 70s, and you can see much of it's labeled. Solid rocket booster control and ground support power panel. Very, very different from the type of equipment you're used to seeing today in use in the space program, both here and well, in the Soviet Union. I'm sorry, there is no Soviet Union anymore. Both here and in the Russian Federation, and by those private corporations now that are launching flights, have successfully launched flights. I'm really dating myself. I'm referring to them as the Soviet Union. Half the guys I know over there don't even remember the Soviet Union.
Right.
Now here we have an interesting tribute to our counterparts on the other side of the world from Russia, or at the time the Soviet Union, what is now the Russian Federation. So I'm sure that this particular poster will be of great interest to my friends Sergei Baklikov and Sergei Pachugin in Ufa in Bashkortostan. I'm sure they'll find that quite interesting. So we do have glory to the Soviet nation pioneer of space. This is, I believe, commemorating cosmonaut Yuri Gagarin. Here we have some of the actual clothing, hats, if you will, from our Russian counterparts. The medals and pins, and here we see the actual wings, flight wings. These are the actual flight wings from some of our Russian counterparts in the space program. And somewhere I actually have a hat just like this, by the way, the insignia and all, which I managed to purchase from an outfit in Moscow. Unfortunately, we're going to have to stop right there because that's really all we have time for. We'd like to thank you for joining us on the Real United States video blog. We hope you'll take time and click subscribe above if you haven't already. You can always find us on Facebook and Google and MoTube. Remember to share this with your family and friends. If you have questions or comments, please leave them in the comment section below. We'll get back to you as soon as we can. And as always, thank you for watching.